Here's a few news articles. There's a new way to recycle batteries, which is a really important issue with lithium batteries. They grind them up into dust and then remove all the unnecessary stuff and make pure materials you can use to make new batteries. This is apparently the best way to do it, and there's a large need for that. Hello, Tariq. Well, you should have audio now. And this is interesting. This guy won in Georgia, John Ossoff, and he has a technique where they, instead of just having a bunch of volunteers doing phone banks, they pay people to push candidates to their friends. So that's called paid relational organizing, and it's apparently successful. Sounds pretty strange to me, but they're pushing it out. It apparently is how they won Georgia. If anybody else can post in the chat whether they have audio, that would be good, so I know if it's just Tariq or everybody. From here, it looks like the audio is working. This is very amazing. A group of Afghan women, oh good, thank you, good. A group of Afghan women were commandos and formed a military group and fought against the Taliban, and then they were rescued, you taken out of the country and sent to America, where they're like working as cooks in Chick-fil-A and learning English and stuff and building a life here. And before that, they were like scary, dangerous commandos in Afghanistan. So it's a pretty interesting story. So I didn't know this. If you're transgender, then of course, you tend to have trouble when you're going through passport, because it'll say something like male on your passport, but they look at you and say you don't look like a male, and they take you off for screening. So apparently now you can get an X as your gender, but the transgender person writing the article says they think that'll just make it worse. That will just mean you'll always be pulled aside as they try to figure out what that means. And you know, this is the evolution of our society beyond just assuming that everybody is male or female, and you can tell by looking at them. And it's a useful way to sort everybody into male and female, which is, of course, the traditional thing. We're trying to get past that in the blue states in America, and as far as I can tell, the red states are vigorously trying to not get past that. And it's one of the many culture wars in America. So in Russia, as I'm sure you know, they passed a law that you cannot have any news reports that say that there is a war, or that repeat anything other than the official party line, which is 100% lies, but you can't say that in class either. So those students who have teachers who have political opinions, which of course I would never have any of those, are now being turned in. And this is the way it was in the old Soviet Union. I remember they said something like 1 in 10 people was an informant. You never dared say the truth about what you thought to anybody. And from what I understand, this is also true in North Korea. Yeah, don't say gay in Florida is a similar thing. So now turning in teachers who don't seem patriotic enough, and this was also true under Mao in China. You know, anybody who was insufficiently patriotic could be turned in by their neighbors and sent off to be punished for not being sufficiently enthusiastic about the government line. So it's not exactly surprising, but it's amazing how quickly the Soviet Union, Russia's turned back into the Soviet Union behind the Iron Curtain, which was pretty much what Putin always said he wanted. So in San Francisco, a driverless car did something the police didn't like, so they pulled it over, went up there's nobody in it. Then it pulled through one more intersection to find a safer place to stop. And apparently there are driverless cars with no people in them at all in San Francisco now, and it's legal. And if the cops pull one over, there's a phone number they're supposed to call to tell the company that the car did something wrong. So apparently what it did was not too bad, but it is a strange thing we're going to get used to, driverless cars getting pulled over. So Elon Musk bought 9% of Twitter, and then they said, we'll put you on the board. And then he said, no, I don't want to be on the board. And nobody knows exactly why. I've seen two popular theories put forward. One by some people is he doesn't want to go through the background check. I highly doubt that. What's probably far more likely is he wants to take over all of Twitter, purchase the rest of it, or just doesn't care about the board responsibilities. By the way he bought it is almost certainly illegal and made him a ton of money and would be punished if he wasn't so rich, but it doesn't appear that there's any punishment for rich people anymore. Anyway, because he filled out the wrong form. He filled out a form saying he is going to buy it, but not attempt to influence it. And it's important to fill out that form when you make a major purchase like this so people can decide what price to sell it at you at. If you're buying for the purpose of taking over the company, then people will charge a higher price because they know you really want it. So he filled out the form saying he didn't want influence, then as soon as he got it, he said he wanted influence. And therefore, retroactively, he should be punished by the Securities and Exchange Commission if anybody has the stomach to do that, which our courts no longer seem to have the courage to punish rich people. Anyway, now he's suggesting lots of changes, putting in the edit button. Wasn't it insider trading if he traded? Well, it's not exactly insider trading, but it is illegal trading under false pretenses. There are financial disclosures that you must give when you buy things, and he filled out the wrong one, lying about the purpose of his acquisition. So it's not exactly insider trading, but it is a similar crime. Anyway, so now his Twitter feed is all full of crazy ideas, and the latest one is he wants to turn the San Francisco headquarters into a homeless shelter. So we'll see if any of this stuff happens. What most people that I respect seem to predict is he's just like a little kid. He'll get bored and lose interest in Twitter and just forget about it and not do anything probably pretty soon. We'll see. Or else he'll perform a hostile takeover, which he can do by just buying enough Twitter stock to be a majority, and then he can do anything he wants with it. And his main issue seems to be freedom of speech, which makes no sense at all, because his speech is not limited on Twitter by Twitter at all. His speech is limited on Twitter by the Securities and Exchange Commission because he has been punished twice for saying outrageously illegal things on Twitter, misrepresenting his plans for Tesla and his plans for the stock price of Tesla to manipulate the price. And that is absolutely illegal, and he's been punished for that. But he keeps on breaking the restrictions that have been placed on him. And even if he owned Twitter, that would not stop the SEC from limiting the illegal things he says about his companies on Twitter. Anyway, we'll see. One thing some people wonder is if he's going to let Trump back on Twitter, but he hasn't said anything about that for or against. A woman in Texas was charged with murder for getting an abortion, and now they have dropped those charges because the anti-abortion law that they passed in Texas does not allow you to charge the woman for it. You can charge other people, like the cabbie that drove her there and stuff, but not the woman. So this particular nightmare from the Middle Ages has not exactly come back yet. In the Middle Ages, women could be hanged for having miscarriages on the grounds that they killed their baby. Porsche tried to buy itself out of the Audi group by buying out VW. Well, I mean, there is a hostile takeover. You can buy a company, you can buy the stock, but there are rules about how you do it. And financial disclosure is required. And those are what Elon Musk has been breaking. Yeah, and you're quite correct. One company buying another. I don't know if that's the SEC or who that is. Yeah, I'm not sure of the details of that stuff. So this is a very interesting idea. These guys claim that they have figured out how to do nuclear fusion without the expensive infrastructure. What they do is fire a bullet of deuterium at a target of deuterium, and the kinetic energy of the impact is enough to cause some portion of it to compress and then perform fusion. And right now, it's only a prototype. It made a tiny amount of energy, but they claim they can scale it up. And this is the first procedure I've ever seen that seems to be scientifically plausible and possibly make some kind of fusion reactor that's not going to be huge and complicated. So this is awesome if they are successful in scaling this up. Some way to have fusion without having a gigantic plant to do it. But it's a long way from being practical yet. OpenSSH, now, I thought this must be the onion. OpenSSH now uses an encryption scheme to resist quantum computing, which, by the way, is crazy because quantum computers don't exist yet. I mean, there are prototypes that there's no quantum computer that can actually break any encryption that matters yet, and there's no clear path to get to that computer. People say it will take 20 years or 40 years or longer, and the quantum-proof cryptography has not yet been determined. There are like 10 candidates. They're currently in the process of picking one to make it a standard, which should happen in the next 2 or 3 years. So it seems very crazy to be rolling out products that are claimed to be safe against quantum computers now. It seems the only sensible thing to do would be to just wait another couple of years until there is a standard system to use. Or you're going to be using some early prototype standard that won't be the right one. But OpenSSH now uses something that they think will be the NRTU algorithm to hopefully resist quantum computers. So it is not generally considered a good idea to jump on some kind of encryption algorithm before it has been thoroughly tested and declared a standard. And this one is very exciting. MIT claims they have developed a drug. If you are old, like me, and you're going deaf, then your ear, inside your ear, no longer has all the little hair follicles it ought to have, as they've broken off from hot noise and other things, and you can't hear very well. They have something they can inject in your ear that will cause it to regrow those hair fibers. And they say this is something that causes your cells to regenerate youthful versions of themselves for other organs too. And it is so effective, they are in fact trialing in humans right now and already showing that it does restore hearing loss in humans. So it is far enough along to be actually used in humans, and they say they could probably use it for other organs too. So that is pretty exciting. I'll put that in the chat. That's one of those medical advances that sounds extremely interesting. And so they've already done a trial with 200 people and seen improvements. Now they're going to another trial with 124 people, results next year, and so on. Will it work with the totally deaf? I don't know. We don't have any of those details yet. It's a good question, and I don't know. But it sounds great. All right, let me stop this news.